What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 124, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Physical Copy himself, Ethan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Kevin. This year is spoiling us with video games. I'm telling you. I mean, I got a lot to talk about today with the games I've been playing, but I'm good. I started working again. That's why we're starting late. So I appreciate you guys working with my schedule. And here we are at 7 o'clock. Might be our new time for the foreseeable future. I'm sure things will change throughout time. You know, it's always going to fluctuate, but we got to work. We got to pay the bills here.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best for sure. It's at 7 p.m. You know what? I mean, I don't care what time we go live. I'm free
So it's
all
fine.
Thursday,
Yeah.
but if everyone wants to come hang out with us, they can come hang out with us. But guys,
Stuff.
this is Project X Talk. We are live every Thursday at a variable time now. My notes say every 5 p.m. Eastern time, but that's not going to be the case for a little
We'll
bit.
try and hit 7, I think, for a while. Try and hit 7.
If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on all of your favorite podcast services. While you're over there, please drop us a rating, drop us a review. It does help us grow. I can now see how many people are on Spotify following this podcast, and I know for a fact not even half of you are leaving us ratings over there. Okay, you're listening to the show on Spotify. I see you, and
They're
not
doing
even
it out of spite,
half.
Kevin.
Not
Because you
even
keep
half.
bugging them about it.
Just do it. I can see it says following your podcast, and you're not even.
You don't even got to write anything nice. You can
You
5
can't even write
stars.
anything on Spotify. You just click a button.
Oh, okay. I was going to
All
say
right.
you can do 5 stars and say the guy on the right's really ugly. And then I'll be happy because it's a 5-star review. I'll be happy.
Well, if you want to interact with us more, please come join the Discord. The link is down in the description below. And if you would like to support us further, get early access to all Save the Game Media's content and exclusive post shows, like the first one we did for Project X like last week. This week was Frame by Frame, and next week will be No Limits. Head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Bucky Blue, Hopple, Alpaca Tom, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, and the Xbox Expansion Pass. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, Ethan, I want to start each show like we do every week by going around the room, asking one simple question. That question is, what have you been playing, my friend?
All right, Kevin. I've been playing a lot. Finished up Hogwarts Legacy. Completed my playthrough. I've talked about the last couple weeks. Everyone knows my thoughts on it. Maintains it. Ends very well. There's a bit of a lull, I'd say, in the third act of the story. You kind of get like, all right, where's this going? It ends on a very strong note. So I will say Hogwarts Legacy, great video game. Can't wait to talk about it at the end of the year discussion that we have at the end of this year. The next game is Shadow Warrior 3. Is that the
okay?
correct name?
Shadow Warrior 3. Tell me about it.
This is a game that you had talked about earlier last year. Sort of a double A Doom style samurai hack and slash sort of game. Really fun. Kind of just like it's just goofy. It's full of comedy. It's like Deadpool meets like Doom. I mean, it's just a really great time. It's the environments are really colorful. It's exciting to explore and look around. It feels well polished, but again, I'm playing it probably about a year after release. But overall, really great fun. The story is kind of whatever. I'm there more for the action and the combat and the craziness and the jokes that they're cracking throughout of it. I mean, it's just really funny. I think the comedy hit a lot in this video game. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't beat it because obviously the game I'm going to talk about next came out, but I will be returning to it probably tomorrow morning. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish it up. It really is
It's
like
very
a 4 hour.
short.
Yeah,
It's very short.
I think I got through 3/4 of the game in like one day. I think it was like 3 hours of gameplay or something like that. But I'm mostly skipping cutscenes, but it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. I took a bunch of screenshots on the Xbox. If anybody follows me on Xbox and can look at my account, you can see some of those screenshots. But really beautiful game. Really fun first-person shooter combat. Really Doom-esque. I personally enjoy using the katana and the shotgun. I mean, I kind of switch between those two, and and go about that way. But a lot of really good enemy diversity, a lot of different tactics that you have to use to defeat different types of enemies. And I think it's just a really fun, small AA Doom style first person shooter. And they did a really great job on this video game.
The platforming in Shadow Warrior is better than Doom Eternal.
You know what?
I'm gonna say that right now.
I haven't played a lot of Doom Eternal, so I can't really speak to that, and I won't because I don't want to piss off the Doom Eternal fans out there, the Doom guy fans, the stans. But I will say the platforming, it feels really good with the grapple hook and the wall running. And this game has some really fun platforming mechanics that I think everyone will really enjoy. It feels smooth going throughout the different levels and mixed with the combat and the different combos you can do while you're doing these maneuvers. I mean, it's really, really fun. Really great 4 hours. It feels like a dense video game. Like there's so much content, so much going on in such a short amount of time. So it's really just a good weekend game, I would say, for someone that wants a good fix for that. But I didn't finish it because I have played and in 3 days beaten Atomic Heart.
Wow.
Okay, so Atomic Heart, where do I start with this game? All right, let's start with the bad, because I always say, I want to start with the bad so we can end on a good note. The bad, it's buggy. It clearly needed more time in development. It is unpolished. There are awkward cuts during cutscenes. Sometimes it'll freeze up. There's frame drops. I've had 3 or 4 crashes. There's a few issues here and there. There's some things that you can't loot. Just little things throughout the game that really frustrate you. That's like, man, I wish this would hit. A lot of achievements are broken. I don't know if you saw that, Kevin, on Reddit.
Love broken achievements.
Oh, it's my favorite thing in the world. You know me, I love my broken achievements. Really frustrating. So I will not be getting the 100% on this because I went back. You can go back into the open world and do some of the side activities, but if the achievements don't track, I'm out. I'm done. I'm gonna go on to the next project. But that's my biggest gripe with the game. My second gripe with the game is the main character's catchphrase is crispy critters.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going.
No, his catchphrase is literally so I get it. You want to do a catchphrase for a character. You want to make him unique in some way, right?
Do you? Is this the early 2000s?
You're right. You're right. You know what, Kevin? You're right. You probably should just make him have a good voice actor. And the voice actor's great. I think their performance is good.
You are the only one I've seen say
Whatever.
that.
I don't really pay attention. He's fine. Okay. It's fine. But I really think it's this catchphrase of crispy critters. He says it so often. And at first it's like, whatever. But then it becomes like, this is ridiculous. Like he will be having really serious story beats, and I'm gonna spoil it, so I'm not gonna spoil the whole story. I'm gonna spoil a section of the story, so people get off or mute yourself for like the next 5 seconds. Mute yourself, give you time. Okay, there's a point where he gets told the truth about this thing called Collective, which is basically this mind control program that this Soviet scientist came up with, right? And he gets told the truth about this, how he's basically the whole world is going to be under slavery. And he just goes, crispy critters. And I'm just like, why? Why did you say that?
I don't know.
At any moment to not say your stupid catchphrase would be this moment. But he says it. Anyways, that's one of my biggest gripes. But I got to talk about the good. There's a lot of good in this game that I think that should be highlighted. Mundfish, this is their first game that they've developed, and I think it's important to highlight all the great things that they've done. The first-person shooter aspect of it. Let's talk about combat gameplay. First-person shooter aspect, I think they knocked it out of the park. I really enjoyed it. It felt a little slow at first, but once you got used to it, it felt good. You can customize your weapons, put different mods on them. You have to obviously go into the overworld and explore different areas to get different mods. I think it's cool. You can customize all these weapons. First-person shooter is funny. You get like a pistol. You can get an AK-47. You can get a shotgun. Bunch of different melee options. If I had to describe the combat to somebody, I would say it's a lot like the combat in Dying Light 2 or Dead Island, for example.
Okay.
So especially the melee combat. The melee combat for sure is very much like those two video games. Another game that I would compare to is first person Resident Evils, especially when you're using the pistol. It felt like I was playing Resident Evil at times. And also, there are some aspects of Resident Evil. There are like safe zones that you can go into to save your game and get your upgrades and everything like that. So there's a lot of inspiration taken from Resident Evil with this video game as well. But the combat to me felt really good. A lot of good enemy variety. Very tough game. This is not going to be an easy game for somebody who's not used to first person shooters. This is probably not a good game to start with. A
Interesting.
lot of the enemies are tough. They have a lot of health. They're basically me. There's a lot of
They bullet sponges.
they're bullet sponges. There's weaknesses to some are impervious to bullet damage and will only take melee. Like you kind of have to scan mobs throughout the world to kind of understand what their weaknesses are, and then you can tailor your attack approach to what their weaknesses are. Where I think the combat gets really fun though is with the different abilities that you can unlock. So you can do like shock, frostbite, fire damage, anything like that. For me, I personally did basically just shock and frostbite, where I was freezing enemies or shocking cameras so that they couldn't see me. And there's a lot of different areas. Another one, telekinesis, where you can lift up all the enemies in the area. This was heavily promoted in the previews, where you can lift up like 10 enemies that are surrounding you and slam them down to the ground. That's really fun and satisfying to do. I think there's a lot of cool ways that you can build a character up in this video game. So I think combat, they hit the nail on the head. It's really, really fun. Really, really interesting. There's a lot of different variety with the combat. Second thing I want to highlight about that's great about this game is the environment. I know I posted some pictures in the
Yeah,
Discord.
that looked really good.
Looked beautiful. That was obviously before the robots went crazy and started killing everybody. But there's a lot of great horror elements and scary things that are going on in some of these dungeons and laboratories that you're going into. You know, the flickering lights and the dead bodies hanging from ceilings. Like, they did a really great job with the environment and environmental storytelling. That's the other video game that I want to compare it to is Fallout. I would say Fallout, there's a lot of inspiration from those games in this as well, in terms of environmental storytelling and just how kind of the world works around it. Really, really cool there. Other than that, I'm trying to think. Atomic Heart, it's there's a lot of good in it. I think Munfish, they didn't knock it out of the park. If you wanted to pay for it, I would say wait. I would say wait, save your money, wait until there's a bunch of patches, they get some kinks worked out. Game Pass subscriber, get this game, play it, do it.
David Hotright says, "Tell me about the amorous robot weapon
Oh
crafting
no,
machine."
okay, so the way you upgrade weapons or upgrade your character, upgrade your abilities is you basically work with a vending machine that's all over this place, and it's basically a sex robot, right?
Oh, cool.
And it will talk to you dirty, Kevin, while you're doing these upgrades, right? It will be like, oh, talk dirty to me, and you'll be
Oh
like,
my
shut
god.
up, robot, and it'll be like, yes, keep going. It's just, so this is not a game to play in the family room, Kevin. You know what I'm saying? Like, grandma doesn't want to hear this sort of smut coming out of these robots. It's really funny, but there are times where it's like, oh my god, I gotta turn the volume down because it sounds like I'm watching, some triple X stuff here. But it's really, really interesting. At first it tries to kill you, but then it's like, oh, I like you. And so, yeah, that's kind of how you upgrade your weapons and do all that. It's kind of funny. There's some good comedy beats to this game. The game's very absurd. I mean, I think anyone who's watched the previews will understand that this game is over the top. It's absurd. There's a lot of, pageantry and really colorful things. There's a lot of serious notes to the game too. The story beats are very serious. The issues that you're tackling are very serious. The messages that come from it are very serious. And the people that are saying this is Russian propaganda, you are wrong. Okay, this makes the Soviet Union and communism look terrible, terrifying, and scary. Because the whole kind of overarching story is, of course, if anybody knows anything about politics and communism, is all about equality. Everyone needs to be equal in the world, right? And basically the idea of this Soviet scientist is that everyone is equal by being enslaved. Right? In this collective 2.0, they call it, right? And it's very dangerous, and you're one of the slaves, obviously, being the major comrade major, they call you, Agent P3. You
Phil Spencer.
basically, Yeah,
Oh,
I thought that was cool too. His code name is P3. But basically he's kind of the henchman of this scientist, and you as the henchman go through your own moral dilemmas and you get confronted with the truth, and your character has to work through that trauma and the issues that come up with that. So story I think is interesting. I think it captivated me enough to keep me going.
mhm.
But yeah, it is the bugs and the issue with the overworld. I don't really care for the open world aspect. They say it's open world. It really isn't. You can't really go back and do stuff, and it's really inconvenient to go back and do stuff, I guess I should say. So it's just I would say this game is probably the most 75 out of 100 video game you could possibly get, right?
Okay,
It's right
okay.
down the road. There are some great elements
I
to
was
it,
gonna
and I
say,
think it's worth a playthrough, and I think Mundfish has a very bright future. I will say that.
I think a lot of people were pretty disappointed when the reviews came out when they saw it in the mid 70s because I think a lot of people
I think that's
expected
where it belongs.
in the 80s, but
Yeah,
from the reviews from what I'm hearing is it's probably an accurate thing. I think
it is.
the hype cycle might have got us on this one, just like with Callisto Protocol. Some would say, maybe this is
Yeah,
a
I think the hype cycle around it being sort of such a BioShock-esque video game, I think that's what got people excited, and I would counter the point. I don't think this game is necessarily a whole lot like BioShock. I think most people were pointing at the Bellyash, which is the character with all the light balls in its head.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically this big projector robot, and it kind of looks like a Big Daddy, and like some of the robots look like Big Daddies. And sure, maybe the team got inspiration from that to build those characters, but in terms of, for me at least, gameplay, I felt like it felt more like either a Fallout or a Resident Evil or a Dying Light 2 slash Dead Island. Those are the games that I would
Interesting.
attribute to this video game. BioShock, not so much. And I just played the first BioShock last year again. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's fresh in my mind.
it's not a game for me. I know Kyle in the Discord said that I know he played an hour of it and wasn't
Yep.
really feeling it. So I don't know if he's
Yep.
played anymore or if he's going to continue.
I will say
Um,
you got to work through the first couple hours. I would caution people, and I'm not telling you, Kyle, to go back and play it. You can do whatever you want, right? But I will say to people, if you're a fan of a good first person shooter, tough out the first hour. If I could say, like, you got to go through tutorials, and it feels like, oh my god, is this all the game is? But things open up to you, and you figure things out that make things a lot easier. At first, you're like, oh, this is gonna suck, but there are mechanics in the game that open up to you, and it makes it a little more enjoyable.
well, if that's all you've been playing, I have two games I want to talk about. I've been playing three games, but I can't talk about the one.
Ooh, can't talk about
Um,
it, Kevin.
yes, can't talk about. So I can talk about. I will say JRPG overload for me. Okay, that is where my
When is
life
it
is
not?
right now. Bro. Okay, we got Kirby coming out tomorrow. We got
The
Clive and
tube's
Wrench
pretty good.
coming out
Oh,
tomorrow.
if you want me to ask the question real quick, remember the question I had before, and I said
Oh yeah,
let's just
yeah, yeah. Before I
ask
get
you
into
during the show.
what's this question?
I need you to choose what next game I'm gonna play because I've been looking today, and after I beat Atomic Heart, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Is it gonna be Clive and Wrench, or
Okay,
is it gonna be Kirby?
so Kirby is obviously Switch exclusive. So if you want to
Right?
play in your stinky Switch, go with
Sticky
Kirby.
Switch.
Clive and Wrench is either PC, Switch, or
It's gonna be PS5 if I do
PlayStation.
Clive
All
and
right.
Wrench. Yeah.
I mean, Kirby 60, Clive and Wrench is I think 30, 35.
30?
It's a cheaper platformer. So if you're looking to save a little bit, maybe try Clive and
I
Wrench,
need you
but
to tell me, Kevin, what game do you think is gonna be more fun? Because I cannot choose.
I think Clive and Wrench will be more fun. I think Kirby might be more polished. Just because Kirby's more of like the
You're not giving
easy.
me an answer here.
It's more easy mode. It's easy. Kirby is an easy game. I don't know what to tell you,
I
bro.
love
Like
Kirby.
I love Kirby too. I'm getting Kirby tomorrow after work, but
If you're
uh,
getting Kirby, then I'll get Kirby. I wanna
I'm
talk to
getting Kirby.
somebody while playing it because I
I'm
I
getting
never
Kirby.
played the original Dreamland.
Me either.
I never played the original, so I wanna play Dreamland Deluxe and talk to some people in the Discord who did play the original Dreamland, and then you and I will be the ones
Yeah, I
playing
mean, I'm
Dreamland
picking
Deluxe.
up Kirby, and then it's gonna sit on that shelf for a while until you'll play. Because I gotta get through a game. But the
Yep.
games the games I was playing earlier this week before last night, I got an email. But Tales of Symphonia remastered. All right.
Yep.
Everyone knows my favorite game of all time. I have an unboxing slash review coming for it tomorrow on the channel. So keep
Ooh,
an eye out for
collector's
that.
edition, right?
You yes, I got the it's called the Chosen
Ooh.
Edition. I got the collector's edition. So I did a little. It didn't even come in a box. All right, it came in a package, but I
Yep.
ripped it open. I showed everyone the cool stuff inside of it. So if you're looking forward to that, you can look. That's on the channel tomorrow. But man, I put 12 hours into it since Friday. So I bought it digitally on Xbox while my Switch version,
You're
the Chosen,
crazy.
was in the mail coming because I was like, I gotta play this game. It still holds up, man. Like
Nice.
it's still so
Good.
good. And I'm flying through it. Like for where I am in the game, 12 hours in, I'm like, I am speed running this. And I'm still sitting here. I'm just like, is this game just like how fast could I do this game? Because in my mind, all the dungeons are a lot longer, but then I do them and I was like, this is like a 5-minute process. Like I'm
I
just
mean, what number playthrough is this for you?
I don't even know, man. In the
Can't
double
even count.
digits
That's like me
somewhere.
with Mass Effect. Like it's over 100% the whole game in
Yeah,
hours.
I'm like, oh, there's a mirror puzzle. Oh, drag it here, drag it there. Like done. Let's go. Let's moving on. Love it. You can look forward to my full thoughts tomorrow. So I'm not going to talk about that one very much right now, but I do want to talk about Like a Dragon Ishin. So I picked this game up. I was I was a little annoyed because I wanted to play it Monday, but the New Zealand trick didn't work. So then I wanted to play it
Yep.
Tuesday morning before I went to work, and it was still locked because I had global release time for like noon or something. It was ridiculous. So I didn't get to play it till
Global
Tuesday
release
night. Yeah.
time. What a joke.
The first few hours are very cutscene heavy, very, very cutscene. You're going to
Okay.
be watching a lot of cutscenes and then basically doing tutorial fights where they just like hit this button and then they teach you like the combats and there's no real danger of losing. I think the game looks gorgeous most of the time. You can tell that they remade it, especially in cutscenes. Cutscenes are absolutely beautiful. They look stunning. And it's only in certain gameplay moments or when you come out of cutscenes and it switches back to like in-engine rendered moments where they're like talking, where you can kind of see like they didn't really touch that section up. It's still kind of like it almost looks like a PS3 model at certain points.
Right.
So it's hit or miss for like where they put their money and touching up for the remaster. I do think because anyone that knows me with the Yakuza games, I love Like a Dragon. Yakuza Like a Dragon, not this naming convention is terrible.
It's kind of, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So I like the one with Ichiban. That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
games, probably of all time. Like I absolutely love that game. That's turn-based. This is action. This is an action JRPG, much like the older Yakuza games. And part of the reason I never got into the older Yakuza games was the combat I didn't think felt very good. And this one I think feels pretty good, not perfect, still has some 2013 jankiness to it where you can tell it's not a modern feeling game, but
Right.
they have tried to make it so you get 4 different like fighting styles, which is what I think is awesome in this game. It really allows you to tailor the way you want to play. You get to be a brawler where you could just like punch people. You can do a swordsman only, so it's just you and your sword, very samurai, because it takes place in the feudal era of Japan, right? Like everyone's a samurai, everyone's slashing each other, killing people. It's awesome. I love this time frame.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, but like I'm thinking back like playing what was that samurai game you didn't like? The side scrolling one
That
that
I
came out.
didn't like.
That came out last year. Oh, Trek to Yomi. You didn't like
Trek to Yomi. Yeah,
Trek
no,
to
I
Yomi.
didn't care for it.
I really like I don't know, samurais are clicking with me lately. I'm really enjoying the
Ghost
whole
of
setting
Tsushima.
here.
You got to
No,
play
I
it.
don't like no. I don't want an open
That's the
world.
quintessential samurai
I don't
game,
want an
Kevin.
open world game. All right. I'm not looking for
Oh,
Assassin's Creed Japan. Okay.
come on.
Anyway, so you get to do swordsman. You can do a gun only, which is very weird to just pull out a
Right.
pistol, or you can do what is called a dancer, where you hold a gun and a sword at the same time. And this style is so much fun. I know I was talking to Hopple in the chat in the Discord. Come over to
Yep.
the Discord if you haven't. Please come chat with Games.
Yakuza Super
Seriously.
Van Hoppel for
Yes.
sure.
He is doing swordsman and having a much different experience, but I'm doing dancer. I put literally every skill point into dancer, and it is some of the moves you unlock are so cool. Like one of my finishing moves is when they're on the ground. If I go up, I can stab my sword into their chest and then blow their head off. And you don't see the bullet, you just see blood splurt up. But
Yeah.
like this game is awesome. In the settings, you can like turn how much blood do you want? Like heavy, light. It's a lot of fun. I'm on chapter 4. I'm looking forward to getting back to it. I do have to put it on hold for right now, but it is an absolute blast. I'm really glad I gave this one a shot.
So I gotta ask you, I'm not the biggest Yakuza veteran. I played Like a Dragon. I played Judgment and Lost Judgment, that
Okay.
series, which is kind of like Yakuza. I'm not. I'm thinking that most Yakuza games don't have this sort of system where you have different fighting styles. Is that incorrect of me to think of? Do you know of?
I don't know. I've only tried Yakuza 0 very
Mm,
briefly, and
okay.
I didn't care
So maybe
for it.
somebody in the comments or in Discord let us know. But because from what I've seen of Ishin, the combat seems really unique to the Yakuza series, or at least just so different that it seems unique. Obviously, anyone correct us if we're wrong. I know there's been like 30 Yakuza games. I have not played hardly any of them. I've only played a couple,
You,
so I don't know if those systems are in place in other
You
places.
know what's funny about this one, right? Is because it's a spin-off title, so it brings them back to the feudal era, like I said. But you have the character models that you would see in like modern
Right.
day, and then
Yeah.
they just throw them in like kimono and
It's
make them
very
samurai. So like
strange.
you have Mijima, right,
Mhm.
from the modern ones, and he's over here just acting like himself, but he's just a weird samurai now, and I'm like, what is going on? Like you
It's
literally
great.
and obviously you play as the guy that looks like Kiryu, but he's
Yeah.
not. That's not his name. And the story's really good. It's the classic drama filled Yakuza style. Like
Beautiful.
that is what you're gonna get from this game. So super awesome. Can't wait to play more. Um, other than that, like I said, can't talk about what else I've been playing. Looking forward to Kirby and Clive and Wrench tomorrow.
Hell yeah. Sounds
So
fun.
Ethan,
Yes,
why
sir.
don't we get into the news because it was actually a pretty news-packed week for Xbox, unlike last week. So,
Yeah.
story number one: Xbox and Nintendo have officially signed a 10-year deal. So, uh, Vice Chair and President of Microsoft, Brad Smith, posted on Twitter, quote, "We've now signed a binding 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo gamers. This is part of our commitment to bring Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty to more players on more platforms." Included in this post, it says, quote, "Microsoft and Nintendo have now negotiated and signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players the same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity. So they can experience Call of Duty just as Xbox and PlayStation gamers enjoy Call of Duty. We're committed to providing long-term equal access to Call of Duty to other gaming platforms, bringing more choice to more players and more competition to the gaming market." So Ethan, we heard about their intent to do this. We knew they
Yep.
offered a 10-year deal to Nintendo. They finally signed it. Do you want me to read the second part of this, or you want to give your thoughts on the Nintendo part first, and then we'll go to the rest?
Sure. Let's talk about the second part too.
Okay. So, announced after their CMA briefing, Brad Smith also said that all Xbox PC games will come to NVIDIA GeForce Now, a competing cloud service, and that NVIDIA Now supports the Activision Blizzard King deal. Microsoft also revealed that PlayStation beat Microsoft market share globally 75% to 25% and 96% to 4% in Japan. So,
Yep.
Ethan, thoughts on all of this? Seems Xbox has been signing some deals, trying to
Hmm.
really hard to get this deal to go through.
Yeah, so obviously the deal with Nintendo with the deal with Nvidia, it really shows Xbox's commitment, I think, to expanding its market and expanding how many people have access to its products. And I think that's the strategy they're using right now to try and get this Activision Blizzard King deal through. Because the whole argument with a lot of these governments that are going against it, whether it be the CMA or the FTC, is that you guys are trying to make a monopoly. And if Xbox can go to them and say, we're literally putting it on every platform possible, along with offering it to PlayStation, it's hard to make the argument that they're trying to make a monopoly. So it's good to see this deal set in stone. It's good for gamers too, obviously, because more games are going to more platforms. That's always a great thing. I think it also shows Xbox's commitment to the cloud industry and them wanting to expand into more cloud. I think NVIDIA GeForce is one of the other big cloud streaming services. I've never used it. It might be big on PC. I don't know the numbers. So if anybody knows the numbers on that, let us know. But it's cool to see their games be added to that so more players can be a part of the ecosystem and enjoy these video games. That's awesome. I am interested though, and we talked a little bit about this when this news first broke that they offered the deal to Nintendo.
Mhm.
How is Call of Duty or how is some of these first party Xbox games going to look on Switch? And obviously not every Xbox first party game is going to Switch. Starfield, there's no way that's going to Switch, right? There's no way they could port Starfield to Switch. I don't even know. I regularly play Modern Warfare 2, and I don't know how they could port that to Switch with how much fidelity is in that game and how beautiful that game is, and how hectic it can get, especially with some of the matchmaking games are 32v32 online capabilities. I mean, the Nintendo is just not geared to handle that sort of gameplay. So I don't know if we're going to go back to the times of when there was a separate Nintendo version. If anybody remembers gaming back in the day with the Nintendo DS, Call of Duty used to have its own versions which were just single player campaigns, completely different, or even the Game Boy era, with the original Call of Duties. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look. We'll see. And maybe they'll pull something out of their butt, Kevin. They can put some weird games on the Switch where you look at it and you go, I don't know how that even runs, and somehow they make it run. But Nintendo's got to do something with their hardware, I think.
David in the chat
There's
goes,
no
Starfield
chance.
coming to Switch,
There's
baby.
no chance. Are
Yeah,
you
no,
kidding? It would be in
no chance.
360p.
No chance in
It
that
would look
one.
like a YouTube video from 2007.
I know Tom Warren reached out to Brad Smith because in his tweets he said, we signed a deal for Xbox games to come to Nintendo, but when asked, he did clarify that he's specifically talking about Call of Duty. And I know some people were like, well, how can they make this legal agreement right now because they don't own Call of Duty yet? And I was like, guys, it's as simple as putting in the contract upon completion of
Right.
acquisition. Like,
So
it's
obviously, if it doesn't happen, this contract's null and void.
is null and void. 100%, absolutely. But
Right.
I think this, and I think I said this before when they offered the deal. This only signifies to me the Switch is at the end of its life cycle
Mm.
and new hardware is coming that will be able to handle Call of Duty going forward, because the Switch in no shape or form can handle the modern Call of Duty games. There's just no chance.
So do you think this is Nintendo in a roundabout way sending a signal to Xbox like we'll be able to put these games on our next console? Do you think, cuz I don't see Nintendo signing a 10-year contract to put games on a system that would hardly run it. So obviously they got to know that something is coming that can run these. Would you say that's kind of a confirmation on their part?
I I d- I think Nintendo has faith that their next piece of hardware will be able to
Mm,
play Call of Duty, and it says it says full feature and content parity. It doesn't say the same like resolution FPS. So I fully
right.
expect such as like we get things with the Series S and Xbox One with last gen games, and it's
Mhm.
still coming out for this. Like the whatever Nintendo gets will not be, unless their next hardware is some crazy PS5, Xbox Series X powerful type machine, which it
Coming
won't
back.
be. Yes, they're coming there. They're going full force. I fully expect them to have a lower version, but they'll have a version that they don't have now. And that for the 130 million Switch players
Mhm.
is huge, because that is something they've never had before. They haven't had a Call of Duty in years over on that
Yeah.
ecosystem. And there are people that only play on Nintendo consoles. So this is something that will appeal to them, especially because they hear other people talking about Call of Duty. If Call of Duty, does Call of Duty have crossplay? I imagine it has to have
Yes, it
crossplay.
does. You can
Yeah.
have crossplay. Yep.
So you throw the Switch players in, now they can play with the kids, can play with their friends who might have those more powerful machines, and
Yep.
maybe they only have a Switch. This is clearly a sign to expand the Call of Duty player base, which already rakes in millions upon millions of dollars every
Yeah,
year.
and we talked about before is that the more players that are in this ecosystem, the better it is for everyone. Because it's a game that thrives on its community, and it's the same thing with like Fortnite. You know, Fortnite brought their game to Switch, and it just increased the player base, and it made the game better as a whole for everybody. So I think that's the strategy going forward with Call of Duty, as it should be, as it always
W-
has been.
Will they be at a disadvantage when it's running at 720, 30 frames per second?
They will.
Probably, but like,
And that's been documented in Fortnite, and I think
Apex
Overwatch is
Legends,
also on. Yeah,
Overwatch.
there's a lot of big, live service games that are on Switch, and it's clearly playing on
But maybe you
Switch. It's
get
just not
that gyro aiming, right? Like,
Ooh, who
yeah.
knows?
If I want to touch briefly on the second part of this, because I think
Yep,
this is actually the bigger news to come out because we've known about the Nintendo deal for a while. The NVIDIA GeForce Now, all Xbox PC games. So they're saying all our first party games,
yep.
because all first party games come to Xbox and PC, are gonna go into the service. That's a win-win. Xbox then still says, hey, you have to buy our game because you have to buy the game before you can stream it. That's how it works for Nvidia. You have to own the game and then you can
Oh,
stream
okay.
it.
Yeah.
So they still get the revenue from that. Nvidia gets the subscription for the streaming. Unless they work out some Game Pass Nvidia type crossover where maybe if you have Game Pass, you can stream the Xbox
Could be in
PC
the
games.
works.
That is something I could see happening. That would be monumental because
Yep.
then that would mean, hey, they both add players to their subscription service, which I think would be huge for them. And
Mhm.
this also opens up, this also takes down one of the big complaints, I should say, that the CMA had. And I think the FTC also had it. It was that Microsoft kind of has a monopoly on the cloud gaming service.
Mhm.
This clearly shows, hey, we'll put it every. I'm sure if they wanted to put it on Amazon Luna, they can talk about that. They honestly are doing everything and anything to get this deal through and expand players to their game, expand access to their games on other platforms. And I don't know, man. It seems to me like they really don't care. They're kind of they're
Yeah.
kind of showing their hand here and saying like we're open to putting our games anywhere.
Yeah, I think Xbox is doing everything it can right now to sort of make this case in real time by doing actions, right? And I don't think there's a lot of things like there's not a lot of these lawsuit news stories that really have like actions like this. Like Xbox is kind of pleading their case or defending themselves by doing things like this. Like you don't see that often. And I think that's really interesting. And I'll be interested to see how the FTC or the CMAs respond to this. And obviously I'm personally rooting for Xbox, not because I'm a fanboy of Xbox, but because I genuinely think it's better for the IPs that Activision Blizzard
Mhm.
holds. I would prefer Xbox to own it. I would prefer Sony to own it than nobody own it, right? I want Bobby Kotick out, and I want those IPs to be treated properly and those development teams to be treated properly. But if we want to go into the other part about the 75-25 split in market share and then
And
the
I've seen those
94-4,
numbers.
94-6 or
I've seen the 96-4 split is the same all everywhere, but I've
right.
seen some other people say it was an 80-20, 70-30.
Yeah.
So like the numbers are kind of off. But also, my big issue with this, and I don't know how much we want to touch on it. One, not really surprised that PlayStation killed
No,
them that bad, right?
no.
Two, where's Nintendo in these graphs?
Yeah, they're clear.
How
Yeah.
can you possibly be like this is the market share when you don't have the leader in the
I would
market?
say probably Nintendo's the leader, yeah, and I think us as Xbox fans, we're used to being in third place in terms of sales and everything. I think for us though, we're confident that the product that we are using and the games that we are playing are more fun and we get more quality and quantity out of them. At least definitely now this year. But it is what it is. We're usually in third place. We're used to it. I'm not surprised by the numbers, especially Japan. I think the fact we got 4% in Japan is it's a miracle, right? Like it's a pretty big deal. But we're expanding, we're growing, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I did see. I think it was Famitsu reported that Xbox Series X and S sales in Japan are above 400,000 now, which is like 300,000 more than the Xbox One got in its
Yeah,
entire
there
life
you go.
cycle. So
We're not done.
small beans, as we say, but still much better
More people in
than
the
last
ecosystem.
generation.
That's what matters.
Yeah, this is awesome. You know what isn't awesome though, Ethan?
Yes, I
Shinji
do.
Mikami is leaving Tango Gameworks.
Yeah.
Founder and CEO of Tango Gameworks, Shinji Mikami, is leaving the studio after 12 years, announced in a company email and later confirmed by Bethesda on social media. Shinji Mikami will indeed leave the studio in the coming months. Mikami formed Tango Gameworks after a legendary career in which he is credited with creating Resident Evil and working on games such as Dino Crisis, Beautiful Joe, and many more. No word yet on who will take over as studio head, but this is indeed a sad day for the Xbox game studios.
Yeah.
Well, how you feeling, Ethan?
It's obviously it sucks, but I mean, if it's time for someone to move on, it's time for someone to move on. It's time for someone to retire. It's time for them to retire. He leaves behind a great legacy, I think, in Tango Gameworks. He obviously was staying to see Hi-Fi Rush through, see that get pushed out, and I think it's really I take comfort knowing that he's leaving on a very high note. I think Hi-Fi Rush was the biggest release that Tango Gameworks had, and I think he really saw his studio come out of left field and capture the world with one of the most incredible video games of this year. And I'm going to say that because I think we're
Mm-hmm.
still going to be talking about it throughout the year as one of the best video games to come out this year. Tango Gameworks has brought so much joy to people, whether it be The Evil Within or Tokyo or Ghostwire Tokyo or Hi-Fi Rush like me. And he leaves behind a great legacy and a great studio full of really talented developers. And, you know, he did a lot of good for our industry and for the medium of entertainment that we love. So wish him nothing but the best. It's one of those rare good retirement stories. You know, we usually talk about people leaving studios and being like, you know, this game flopped or you know they have controversy, but no, it seems like he's leaving and he's probably about to kick back, drink some pina
Mm-hmm.
coladas, enjoy his life, or maybe go on to a new project that he wants to do, which is also really great.
From what I've read, he hasn't really been involved with the making of a game, like directing and actually like in the creative process.
Right.
He's been executive producer on games, but
Hmm.
I think The Evil Within was really like his last like hands-on thing.
Yeah.
Also, people have to remember, and you wouldn't know this by looking at him. This man is almost 60 years old.
Yeah.
You would not know that looking at. He looks
He's aged
great for his,
gracefully.
yeah. He looks great for his age. So
Yeah.
he has every right, in my opinion, to be like, I've done what I wanted to do in this entertainment field. I've
Yep.
made some legendary IPs that are still going strong.
Legendary.
If he wants to leave and retire, great. If he wants to go do something else, he has every right to do
I'm
that.
excited to see
It
what he does.
it hurts for me because I've just recently like become a fan of
Yeah.
Tango Gameworks with
Yeah.
Tokyo, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Hi-Fi Rush, like games that I really enjoyed, especially Hi-Fi Rush. I'm
Yep.
excited to finally go back and check out the Evil Within series when I get some time to do that, because God knows 2023 ain't giving me the time to do it. But I feel like Tango, he's leaving at a time where their stock has probably never been higher.
Yep.
Because those, it's not like the Evil Within set the world alight, right? But Hi-Fi Rush was a zeitgeist moment. It was a
Hmm.
big deal. It's one of the most critically acclaimed games this year. It's absolutely going to be in conversations at the end of the year. And I think this is the moment where he's like, we've done something special here. Time to step away. And if he wants to go do something else, like I said, great. If not, well done. Tango is going well. I don't know. I want to know who is going to take over for head of the studio. I don't know if it's
I
was
think it was
it
John Johannes was the one
John
that did
Johannes?
the
Yes.
director for Hi-Fi Rush, so it could
I
be
don't know
him.
if
Who
he's in
knows?
the. I don't know if he. I don't know the hierarchy at Tango Gameworks. Is the problem.
Right.
Like he was the game director of Hi-Fi Rush, but how high up does that make him in the
Right.
studio? Right. Like he could just
Yeah.
be a game director. They
There might
have
be some vice president out there
Yeah, they might
that's
have
we
multiple
don't know.
projects going on. So
Yeah.
we're gonna wait and see. I trust whoever they bring in, but definitely sad news. And Luke, Xbox expansion pass in the chat, says John Johannes is awesome. Yes, he is. Maybe you can go check out some an interview with said director over on the Xbox expansion pass. All right,
Ooh.
I'm just gonna plug that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
really great listen.
it's clear that this development studio has a wealth of talent. it has, you know, a good depth chart in terms of developers and leadership there. And John Johannes is just the tip of that spear. And I think Shinji Mikami leaves behind a great legacy at this studio. So I think we should all be excited for whatever comes next with
Yeah,
Tango.
for sure. Awesome. Uh, Ethan, let's go into our third story. Just a Game Pass
Sure.
update. Pretty small Game Pass update, actually. So,
Yep.
February 28th, we get Merge and Blade for cloud console PC. We also get Soul Hackers 2 for cloud console PC. March 2nd brings us F1 22 for console PC. And March 3rd, you get Wolong Fallen Dynasty for cloud console and
Ooh.
PC.
Ooh. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. That's my next big one, Kevin. That's the next one I have my eyes set on. It's time to play Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. That's the game I'm playing on that date. I'm excited for it. Soul Hackers 2, talk to me about that though, because you did play that. I believe
Mhm.
you reviewed it for the channel. Am I wrong to think that? Am I
I
going crazy?
honestly can't
You
remember.
review so many JRPGs. Guys, go YouTube, try and find a review. We might have done it.
I don't know if I did. Maybe.
If
I
we did
can't
it, it was
remember.
awesome. All right. But
Um,
let me hear
Soul
about that.
Hackers
Sell me on it.
2 Soul Hackers 2 is a good game. It's not a great game. It is Persona light in the best, like that's the best way to describe it, except it takes out a lot of these social elements that makes Persona great. It keeps the combat, like combat in Soul Hackers is still really good. It just loses some of the charm when you have a very limited cast in Soul Hackers 2. You only have the four main members,
Yeah.
and the dungeon is it's not great. It's bland. It's just basically running down stairwells and empty hallways in a digital space. Reminds me very much if you've played Persona 3. Tartarus is the big area there where it's empty. I talked about this a few episodes ago when I tried to play Persona 3.
Mhm.
Empty, boring hallways with like the occasional monster. So combat good, story is decent, if not a little generic anime, but it's good. It's good
Mm.
for like if you're looking for a JRPG and you don't want to spend some money, like dive into Soul Hackers too. But
Yep.
there are plenty of JRPGs out right now that I would probably recommend over that,
Mm.
like
Right.
Tales of
Like
Symphonia
Monarch.
Remastered. I would recommend Monarch over Soul Hackers
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I would. I like
Go
Monarch
play
more.
Scarlet Nexus or Tales of Arise. We all know
Scarlet
those are
Next,
better.
yes, absolutely. Those are two games
Didn't
you should
Scarlet
definitely
Nexus
play.
just come out on PS Plus or
PS Plus,
something?
yeah,
PS
PS
Plus?
Plus. It's
Yeah,
on
so go
Game
check
Pass
that
though.
out.
It's on Game
Oh,
Pass.
it is? I didn't know
I think so.
that.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Pretty sure
Go check that out if
Game
anybody
Pass
wants to
like
play
6
that
months
though.
after,
Scarlet
but
Nexus is really fun. But going back to Wolong Fallen Dynasty, I want to talk about that for a bit because I tried to play the demo back when that came out. It was a buggy
mhm.
mess. I couldn't get past like the first area. What little I experienced was exactly what I thought was going to be from watching the different game previews that we saw. I think it was Gamescom. There was a lot of floor gameplay that a lot of different games journalists went and tried out. So we saw a lot of first impressions out of that. Basically a fast-paced Elden Ring in the style of like Dynasty Warriors. I think we saw Lu Bu at one point during one of the previews. If anybody has played any of the Dynasty Warriors, you know exactly who Lu Bu is, and you know the character model, you know who I'm talking about. So there's a lot of interesting things in this game, a lot of different interesting enemy types, and the combat seemed pretty cool. I don't think it's going to be necessarily as hard as a FromSoft game or any other Souls like. It seems like a little easier because again, it's very much more fast paced. There's a lot more dodge mechanics and stuff like that you can get out of attacks ways and everything. But the game looks cool. The aesthetic looks cool. I'm excited for it. It looks unique and interesting. I think it's going to be a new take on the Souls genre, something we haven't seen before. So jumping into it, I'm really excited for this game. So, I mean, are you thinking about this at all?
No.
No, I
Um,
figured.
I know some people. This game has been ready for a while, by the way. There are people that have
Yes.
played through the entire game, like start of February. Like this game has been out there. They seem pretty confident about it. So one, hoping it hits really well because
Yep.
it'd be good for the people that enjoy those types of games. Two, our fantasy critic league. All right, we need
Yes.
this to score well. Someone was
I'm trusting it.
whispering in my ear earlier that it might not be as good as we all think it is, but I'm staying
Don't listen to the
positive.
haters. Don't
Okay,
listen
I'm
to the haters.
staying positive. Other than that, it's not for me. I'm not a Souls type
Yeah.
guy. I think the art style and the world is the most interesting one. I love the that type of era with what they're
Yeah.
going for with the Chinese aesthetic. Like that looks great to me.
Right.
Other than that, not really
Fair
for
enough.
me.
Yeah. But I will give you
Game,
the report on it for sure.
yes. Let me know how it is. I will be drowning in my JRPGs until then. All right, and
And
platformers.
you will give me
Okay.
the report for that. It'll be a good time.
Yes, I will let everyone know how much can I just say, I'm not going to tell you what I'm playing, but
Mhm.
there was literally a scene where a girl grabbed another girl's breasts
Oh,
for
classic JRPG.
for way too long.
Way too like an uncomfortable
Like an
amount of time.
uncomfortable amount. And that's all I will say. That is all I will
I
say.
think I know which game you're playing. Obviously, I'm not going to say it, but I think I know which one you're on.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah. That's all I will say. Let's go to our last story, Ethan.
Absolutely.
And that is Mortal Kombat 12 is apparently coming this year. Announced during an earnings call today, CEO of WB Discovery said that alongside Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Mortal Kombat 12 would also be releasing this year. I'm gonna go first on this one. I am not. I haven't been a Mortal Kombat guy for quite a while, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
It's never really been my fighting game of choice. I know my brother Kyle used to kick my butt in it all the time, and I'd be like, "This game doesn't make any sense. I don't know what to do." But to announce to be such a big game, and for this to be the way it gets told to the public that it's coming this year, apparently, is kind of a letdown. Like this should have been a
Yeah.
showcase moment. This should have been a big reveal, but like Mortal Kombat 12 is coming. Let's go. Especially because people were like wondering what they've been doing. Ed Boon's been pretty tight-lipped. People were like, is it Injustice 3? Which I personally would have loved Injustice 3 more because I like the Injustice series. I got
Yeah.
into that last year. So Mortal Kombat 12, very cool for those that want it. Kind of a lackluster way to find out.
Yeah, it's really interesting that it came out this way because again, as I've said a million times, I'm not the biggest fighting game guy, but to me, Mortal Kombat is the granddaddy of them all, right? Like this is the fighting. I know some people look at Street Fighter that way. For me, growing up and being a really young kid, the first fighting game I ever played was Mortal Kombat on I think the Sega something. I don't know. It was a very old console that one of my cousins had. I don't remember. It was not a Nintendo or I don't know what it was.
Hmm.
It was like Mortal Kombat 3 or something.
Mhm.
But this is the granddaddy of them all for fighting games. I don't think this is how it should be revealed. I'm wondering if there was some sort of disconnect between the team that was doing this conference call and the actual staff of the development team and everything. If maybe somehow they knew about it and this just slipped during the conference call, or if this was a planned thing. And I think it was a planned thing because if you tell investors, hey, we're coming out with one of the most popular, IPs in the entire fighting game scene, investors are going to go bonkers over that and start throwing their money in. And so it's a good way to sell your stock. Not necessarily the best way to sell your game to gamers, though. So it is sad. I wish this would have been a giant reveal or
Mhm.
anything. It might have been a misspeak. I don't know. I feel like these conference calls, not conference calls, these earnings calls, I should say. Earnings calls are very particular because if anybody knows anything about the stock market, is words matter and optics matter when it comes to your stock price or any investors and whether or not they put their money in your company. Any one wrong word can send your stock price tumbling. So this stuff is choreographed ahead of time. Questions are pre-approved, I think, a lot of times, especially between the bigger investors. And I think the team went into this meeting with it on their notes that Mortal Kombat 12 is coming out, and we want to highlight that to get investors on board.
I was gonna say
Um,
if
which
you
I don't think that's right. I don't think
I-
that's right for me.
if they misspoke and they just meant that like, oh, Suicide Squad is coming out this year and we have Mortal Kombat 12 coming as opposed to like coming this year, that's a
Yeah.
pretty big misspeak. All right.
I
They
mean,
need to tighten that up if that's to come out and clarify because
exactly, right. And I think that we all kind of know that Mortal Kombat 12 is coming out eventually. I don't think it's
oh
like
yeah.
any crazy trade secret that it's 12. Like obviously they're making a million of these things, right? Like there's going to be another one. But I think a reveal needs to happen at like a showcase to get the people who actually buy your game fired up. That's the exciting thing, and to get the community fired up, because that's what makes your game. When you have a fighting game that's popular, it's the community that makes it special. It's the esports scene. It's the YouTubers. It's the content creator. It's the people that gin up the excitement and put on the events and the live events and fill stadiums for your video game. That's what gets people excited. And I get you need investors. I get that you have a business side of things, but at least choreograph it a little bit. Hell, I would have been cool if they had revealed it during the state of play. If they had been like, "Hey, we're gonna have this
Me
earnings
too.
call," yeah, I'm sure we all would have been. We're gonna have this earnings call. We want to drop this info because we want people to invest in us. Let's contact Sony and let's start the ball rolling. I'm putting this out on a state of play. This is going to be a big deal. So I don't know. I feel like it could have been handled better than this.
There was no room for it. I had to learn that I'm probably gonna have to play Tachia for Make Me Suffer in next month.
Yes.
No,
A good Make Me Suffer. That's what I
no.
like to see.
It was funny because during if you haven't watched our live react, go watch the live react. But during I was like, this Tachia is like an indie game. Great. It doesn't appeal to me. I'm sure it appeals to somebody, but the whole time I was like, I don't want to play this game. And then Amon, I think it was Amon, he was like,
Thank you, Amon.
I hope it comes to PS Plus extra so we can make you play it. Make Me Suffer tier. And then at the end, it was like, enjoy Tachia coming to PS. I was like, I almost left. I like rolled back. I was like,
Amon's the homie, dude. Yes.
No.
Good shout out, Amon. He's spoken into existence.
Yeah, David's there with it. So patrons, be on the lookout for that vote. If you have to Make Me Suffer tier, or you can suggest it, but it'll be there anyway. Ethan, that's all we have for this week.
Good stuff.
Been a fun show. Liked hanging out with you. It is very warm in my office.
It's very good after a day of work. Come home and talk video games. It was a good time.
Yeah, for real. But everyone, thank you for hanging out with us. Love when the chat's popping off. Make sure if you're listening on audio and you want to hang out with us, we're live every Thursday. Come hang out with us. Make sure to drop those ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple, please. It does help us. We haven't had an Apple review in quite some time, and we really need that to go up the charts. Yeah, and we'll read it live if you drop it. So thank you so much. Ethan, where can people find you?
On the Discord. Come ask us questions for next week. I love viewer questions. We haven't had them in a couple weeks. I want to hear you guys.
That's true. And thank you, Cody, for saying great episode. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks, buddy.
You can find me at the Muffin Mon on Twitter. It's a 1-7. I own 7A. Follow us at Save Game Media over on Twitter. Stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And make sure to check out my unboxing and review of Tales of Symphonia Remastered tomorrow. It's YouTube only because it is a visual. I can't unbox it to the audio, so it wouldn't make any sense. But check that out. Until next week, we'll see you.